Kia ora, welcome to Manaaki Real Talks. This is pretty awesome. This is Andy, co-founder of Manaaki, and today I've got a couple of friends as guests, and we're going to talk about renewables, the importance of renewables. We're going to talk about employment, we're going to talk about the regions, we're going to talk about the islands, and we might talk about a few other things. This is not your normal Web3 talk. This is just something a little bit different, which has really come about as a result of the journeys that we've been on at Manaaki. And so, Kenneth, Jack, welcome to you fine gentlemen.
Kia ora.
Thank you.
Kia ora. Nice to have you here.
Lovely to be here. It's a nice space.
Should we do a little intro of
sure.
each? We'll start with Kenneth, start with the young fella.
Yeah.
Intro.
Who are you?
Kia ora everyone, I'm Kenneth. I, in this season, am the Academy Director of Lightforce Academy. In a previous season, I've been a job seeker, that did a course through Manaaki and was lucky enough to make it through Digital Doers in 2021, which landed me an opportunity to just apply a lot of my hopes and dreams into the current mahi that I'm doing.
Welcome.
Malolei, I'm Jack, Tongan Kiwi. In today's age, I work for a renewable company called Lightforce. I'm the COO. In a previous life, I worked for global telco giant Digicel for 15 years and was recently in the Caribbean as regional chief executive for the West Indies. And I'm here today excited to talk to Andy.
So, how did the story... So let's just start with Lightforce.
Yep.
Right, so Lightforce, I call it Lightforce Solar.
Yep.
And conflict, I was the chairman of Lightforce and I am a shareholder in Lightforce.
Wow.
So it means I'm all in and I have solar at home as well.
Perfect.
But how did this all start?
Well, it actually started with me being on a boat with Luke and Kat. I can't remember.
America's Cup?
No, it was Easter weekend. So, no, it would have been Labour weekend last. Anyway, sometime, and you sent a video of Kenneth, his video from the Digital Doers, and I was sitting there with Kat, a few drinks in, and we were blown away. And at that point in time, you were looking for us to take some interns on, and we said yes.
Before you do that, so Digital Doers Academy was what?
It was a training ground to learn all the fundamentals of digital,
Yeah.
To become a digital generalist, and the kaupapa was to really help small businesses, level up and transform their digital journey.
So I said to you, you should talk to Kenneth. And you're like, oh yeah, whatever. But you saw the video.
Well, I saw the video and we were like, hell yes. But we don't know where. And we organised time. Kenneth came in.
So you didn't have a job?
Didn't have a job.
But you saw the storytelling
of Kenneth. I saw the power. Yes, the storytelling, but when you get the benefit of being in Kenneth's presence, it's phenomenal. So we organised a day. I remember it was wet. It was 4:00, and in comes this shy, gentle giant into the room. We sit down, and in the first 30 seconds, he sold himself. And
So by selling myself, I'm like, okay, I need a job, so I need to impress the person that's interviewing me. So I rattled off a lot of skills that I had uniquely just learnt. And 30 seconds in, Jack was like, no.
Stop.
This is not who I saw on the video.
Were you freaking out at that point?
100%. Because you're in an interview hoping that someone will accept you or obviously reject you. And he just tells me 30 seconds in to stop. And I'm like, I did not plan for someone to stop me in my sales pitch. And he was just like, no. And he spent the next sort of half an hour just trying to unpack what it is that I wanted to do, but also I guess just try and learn a little bit more about who this recommendation was that you had sent to Jack. So that was pretty much most of our.
Did you after that moment of anxiousness, when he said
did I recover?
Stop,
No.
Did you start to get more comfortable as he helped you show the real you?
Authentically? No. No, but to be honest.
wow.
No, well, I mean, hello.
He's told me yes, but anyway.
We're in an interview, so of course there's this level of am I saying the right thing, right? But then he asked me this one question I've never had asked in an interview before, and he was like, what's your dream? And I was just like, excuse me? What did you just ask? Because I've just never had an interviewer ask me what my dream was. And so that moment of anxiousness turned into a moment of, do I go all in and really share my dream? Or do I just try and, give an answer he wants to hear? And I just made that choice. I'm like, nah, I've come too far on my journey. The Digital Doers Academy, what it did was instilled such a confidence that I can speak my dream into existence, and I just went for it. And so that diverted our conversation completely different.
Now, let's just pause for a minute. Can you hear that rain? I can hear that rain outside. Is that rain or is that Mihi? Hi, Mihi. We're recording. It's all good. This is all part of being in an active studio at Manaaki. So, back on piste.
Let me pick it up for you.
What did you think?
I had this guy who walked in, literally like a car salesman. You get this and that, and I was like,
car salesman.
Car salesman.
Wow.
And a good car salesman, right?
Do you still want to work with him?
And I went, this isn't the guy that I saw in the video.
Yeah.
So, and I knew he was nervous because he was
tried to
sweating
sell him a Lamborghini, but all he saw was a Toyota.
And
Toyota's good, by the way.
They are good. They last.
And being Pacific, I understand what it's like to sell yourself. And sometimes we forget what stands us apart from everybody else. And I really wanted him to talk to that, i.e. the person I saw in the video. So anyway, long story short, he spoke about his dream of building this community centre for women, and used his closest female women in his life and the impact they've had on his life, and those that have passed him, to create a space, a safe space. And I immediately thought of the Academy. How can I help him achieve his dream by using the Academy as a vehicle to deliver what we need as a business, but potentially trial his dream? And here we are today, award-winning Academy. We set it up. We've delivered a pilot in February. We finished our pilot end of July. Award-winning. The sector have deemed it best social impact across all our competitors. We went down to Wellington last week with MSD. Thank you, MSD,
to
help them with their Social Services Award, where we were a finalist for best outcomes. And it's reinforced that his dream, the commercial or corporate vehicle, when you have these two things come together, you can make magic.
So you can do good and make money?
Do good and make money. Well, we're not for money at the moment, right? If we were to remove the corporate hat and just look at what we are wanting to do, which is to grow a sector by bringing in low-skilled labour into the sector, to grow the sector, grow competition, this is where it's at. Blue sky thinking, absolutely. There's
so let's just so Lightforce puts solar on roofs, residential, commercial,
correct,
right?
Yep.
And there is a significant constraint in the industry, right?
Yep.
Which is installers who can do that.
Yep.
And so the Academy was created to train people to get into solar installing.
Yep.
So it's award-winning, it's successful, it's delivering, it's early days.
Early days.
And we're going to talk about the opportunity for it later and what it means. But Kenneth, have you done this before?
No.
Okay, so you've not done this before. And you sold yourself and that didn't get you purchased, so to speak, by Jack, but Jack helped you.
100%.
And then you started day one. So, how do you go from day one, where you've never done something before, to being award-winning? How did that, how did you do it? How did you break it down?
I don't know if I know what the recipe is for becoming award-winning, but I think to be able to enter a space that I've never been in before, I really look back into my own lived experience of, learning and education, and we can all close our eyes and see like 2 to 3 teachers who made us such an impact on our lives. And so that was my north compass of the kind of academy I want. I wanted to be, I wanted the space to be a place where people close their eyes and like the academy was just one of those teaching moments that really stand out in my entire life. And so with that, I started to marry what were the deliverables I needed to deliver.
Achieve, yep.
Like what technical skill, but also for me, I guess as a lover of learning, I was like, what's going to make them feel like it's theirs? And with that, it was like the possibility of not only learning something, but absolutely owning what I've learned into outcomes that obviously would help the business and stuff. So yeah.
And you've run 4 cohorts?
Mm-hmm. 4 cohorts, graduated 50, and it's hard to, from what the graduates have said, they could have learned that anywhere, and we say this to ourselves, like,
the functional stuff.
Yeah, we can teach, like anybody can teach stuff, but you really need to have an intention of making that time matter for that student, not just with what they are learning functionally, but there were moments where we could exchange. I call that exchanging mana, where, whether it's life skills, life lessons, just a moment to listen, it just really unpacked and removed the barriers to learning for them to be able to pick this concept up and saying, I've never done solar before, but I think I can do some pretty good stuff with it. And then...
How did you two work well together?
We're still learning how to work well together, to be honest. But I think I would not be in this position had it not been for someone to first see what I wanted to achieve in a vision.
Yeah.
But then just having this, the wider, the expertise to actually draw out the things that needed to be drawn out to make this happen.
Yep.
But then, as we've just spoken about, I really do think that we are in the presence of one of the greatest enablers, one of the greatest accelerators that I've ever known. And because of that, it pushed me to keep going, because there were so many roadblocks along the way where it's easy for someone with a dream to be like, too hard, But that's where I think we worked really well, because he was just like, no, keep going. Where there were times where like, I cannot keep going. And so that's where I think the power in our
partnership,
in our teamwork has been really, really cool.
What do you think?
I think for me, what Kenneth reminded me of was, I'm going to get emotional, was the importance of people. The importance of being true to yourself. And I think, having been in the corporate space for the last 20 years, you become this machine. I can run rings around execution, strategy, do it with my eyes closed. I will confidently say I'm an expert in that. But in doing that and becoming, being part of the rat race, you forget who you are. You forget, your learnings as a Tongan, as a Polynesian, and what's important when you're building communities, etc. So meeting Kenneth just immediately made me go, oh my God. So his challenges in the corporate space, I said, I will destroy those barriers. We need to be successful. We've got an opportunity with government. We've got funding. I can navigate what you can't, and I can't navigate what you can do. So let's do this together. And it was the other day when he said, my first day, he was folding T-shirts. That was the reality. For a week, folding T-shirts, because...
Is there a way to fold a T-shirt?
If there is, there must be some way, because it turned into an award-winning academy.
Exactly.
But
so
for me,
just being able to, like, if people knew the barriers we had to getting to where we are today. Most people would have checked out a long time ago. So I had that tenacity and that drive to deliver. I knew exactly what we needed to do so that we could continue doing stuff into the future. And he always reminded me of the heart, about the people. And it's a wonderful combination.
It is actually. Now, you're the second person that's cried with me this week. And it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for actually sharing that, you know, because like we feel that and we see that and it's really powerful. So I don't want to make you cry again.
Don't.
But you know, it is powerful and it's important. Do you think it didn't have to be solar? It could have been something else? Solar training?
I'm going to answer this. It needed to be solar because there was a business need. The business need allowed us to apply for funding. We used solar as a means to deliver a vision and a dream. The future it's a space for any type of training, whether it be musical, whether it be sales, etc. Anyone can deliver the hard skills. That's the easiest piece. The piece at the beginning where we create a space for learning, the piece at the end, the pastoral care, and that pathway to employment where we handwalk both the student and the employer into a business objective for the company and a personal objective, that's the piece, that's the magic.
Okay, so let's just play this game. I was almost going to put an invisible wall between you two. But in 2 years' time, where is the academy? What's it doing?
You can start.
I think it's just doing a bit more of what we're doing now, to be honest. You know, just in an amplified way.
Across New Zealand?
We talk global, and
Yes.
the reason why global, I think with digitization, etc., there's the opportunity. We have irons in the fire across the globe that we're working with at the moment.
For the Solar Academy?
For solar, because that's where we're playing at the moment.
Okay.
But people love the journey. Go.
Can I just go back to
course you can.
with the whole, you know, would this have happened if it wasn't a solar? To be honest, I think it probably wouldn't have, because the unique thing about the academy was that it didn't have something before that people could reference what a solar academy should look like, because there was nothing. And so with that element of uncertainty allowed me the opportunity to design something that had somebody had designed it before, everybody would have wanted a lot of what I could bring to fit the mold of what was created before. And so I think it had to be solar, or it had to be in this specific time, because there was no model before this.
So it was fulfilling a need that wasn't around. There was some training programs in other places, but there wasn't anything here in New Zealand like this.
No.
And in 4 cohorts now, you've achieved product market fit.
Totally, and a
Right.
benchmark.
And a benchmark.
Yeah.
And now there's the opportunity to scale that in solar,
100%.
in New Zealand,
Correct.
into the islands.
Into the islands.
Anywhere else?
I think for now that's where we need to perfect the model.
Yep.
Right, because there's green rush, gold rush, whatever you want to call it, coming into our neighbourhood, whether it be large scale solar farms in New Zealand, and we're seeing the likes in the Pacific. We are talking with those that are at the table building these places, who are going, how can you help us get trained labour to help build this, you know, renewable energy economy?
So, interesting question, right? And it's fresh in my mind because I just interviewed an icon of New Zealand business community, Ulu Aioni, right? How do you pronounce it?
Ioane.
Ulu Ioane. And it's very interesting when you listen to him talk about his reflections on business and where opportunity comes from. Because when I hear, you know, I suspect you started with a human, you saw human potential. You did have a business need that enabled the human potential to go after the business need. But as you've got into this in this very short time, all of a sudden your eyes around the opportunity, like isn't it materially greater than what you thought it was? Did you think before you met Jack that there was an opportunity for a solar academy?
No. And I mean, when we go back to talking about dreams of a community centre, that was just a vision of what I'd like to see in my future in terms of having a space where people can be before they become. You know, no barriers to, you know, come as you are, not as you need to be, sort of safe. And it wasn't even solar at that point. It was just reflecting back on the people like Manaaki who enabled me, a job seeker at the time, you know, with no credible options that would make me feel anything other than authentic. Because going, like as Jack was talking about before, you can be in that corporate space and it can be quite, you know, you've got to play the game, and that has a cost, and sometimes that has a cost to our identity and who we are. And so, what am I trying to say? I think the community centre was always what I had hoped in terms of it didn't matter who you were, you come from any walk of life, but you'd be seen, you'd feel safe enough to just express whatever it is you've got to express, and then hopefully within that process you'd find the next thing that you're going to go for.
You know, it's really interesting, and I'm sure the consulting companies that talk about this, right? But one of the analogies I have started to think about and use with people is, where do you stand? Like, where are your feet right now? Where are you? You know, and describe that for me. And then, you know, what's your dream? Like, what's your vision? I think the most important thing, which is the hardest thing, is what's behind you? What's powering you to achieve that dream and vision? And it's not to create a solar academy. That's not that, you know, that there is something deeper for you and for Jack that makes you get out of bed. And as you become more attuned to what is that purpose in your life, it starts to redefine what that execution could be. You know, which is pretty powerful. But Jack, 2 years out, because you know, maybe Kenneth is in the moment about, you know, where he can see things and he doesn't want to talk it up too much. What do you see?
I see here in New Zealand that we are the benchmark for solar
Training.
Solar training, one. Secondly, that we create a new vehicle or delivering or platform for training through, and we're talking about this the other day, we were working with an agency to help us articulate the essence of what we do, right? Because
Which means it could go to other areas of industries.
So Kenneth's community space that he talks about, I want to help him create this community space that becomes a force to be reckoned with. So when someone goes, okay, I need to get our staff trained, let's go to, for argument's sake, he talks about vision carriers, that he creates vision carriers, and I think that's potentially something we're going to trademark and call our business. But let's go to the guys at Vision Carriers, because they make men better men. Do you know what I mean? They come in, they go through this process of cultural-based training that's anchored in, whether it be Te Ao Māori, whether it be Polynesian, whether it be the cooks, and they come out these amazing vision carriers. So not only have they learnt the hard skills, they're better communicators, they're better engagers, etc., and they're going to deliver our visions, and they become the trainers. So that's what I want for New Zealand. In the Pacific, again, we replicate. I would love, as a Tongan, to see vision carriers that come out of the Pacific, not just as fruit pickers. They are coming to New Zealand to enhance our workforce, because we're not using them and their expertise. And then when I think outside of our backyard, i.e. the Pacific, we have a digital platform that people want to engage and understand our secret sauce to enhance their training that they're delivering.
Do you think the academy could be bigger in the end than Lightforce Solar itself?
100%. That's my driver, Luke.
He won't be watching.
Yeah, this will be.
He'll just watch the clip, just that little clip, and go, Jack, you're
just
fired.
to put it into perspective, and I said this at a meeting yesterday, we are profitable. We are running it on the smell of an oily rag, but this can be a real business model for training entities out there.
Kenneth.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did.
Thank you.
But I've moved on. I've already got the next question in my mind.
He just wanted the Luke comment.
Yeah.
Why are there not that many female wahine solar installers in the market? And what are you going to do about that?
Yeah, good question. I think
That's because you told me to ask you.
to be honest, it's just when you think of physical labor, you know, that automatically has so many perceptions of you need to be strong, you need to be all these things, and I don't think we've done justice to our wahine to actually say you've got strength and you can come do this too.
Yeah.
And so as a wahine, and again, I am trying not to speak on their behalf, but I think for what I've realized as a father of daughters, men are not doing enough to make it accessible, because it's more than just saying here's a panel, lift it.
Yeah.
There's things that we do inherently that just automatically make situations more biased towards us.
Okay. And then what are you doing about it?
So again, in my journey, I think it's really important as a facilitator to actually unpack and listen more about what makes a safe space for wahine.
Yeah.
Which also ultimately could mean I might not be the facilitator. And I think that's sometimes you've actually got to get to that point when you realize part of that safe space includes somebody else who can better facilitate. And that's not in any way taken away from what I can bring, but it's just when you think about it from the position of a wahine, you want to make sure that the things, whatever the barriers are, you just remove them. And if I'm one of them, then yes.
Do you believe in doing a wahine alone cohort?
100%. 100%, because...
So are you going to do that?
Yeah, we are.
When?
End of November.
End of November 23, 22.
22.
This year.
22.
Move fast, come on.
22. And like, I think what I'll do is I'll go back to, let's talk about vision carriers. And so what I understand about business owners, CEOs, leaders, is they all have to cast the vision, right? We all know that they are the vision caster. But when you unpack that all, what they are really looking for are people who can carry their vision, hence vision carriers. Vision carriers are people who business leaders can say, you get what I'm trying to achieve, and I can trust that you can shoulder this vision coming to a reality. And so when we think about the vision of solar, I see that both with Tane and wahine, 100%. Because as we've learned in our pilot, wahine like literally shift the space in a better way. It made us men as better, because they're just when you talk about tradies, you know, it's like the soft skills around what makes a space homely. And I'm not saying that that's just putting people into roles, but I'm like, the wahine made us as men respect the space so that wahine and us can feel safe. You know, and that's tidying up after ourselves. That's making sure that we are thinking one step, 2-3 steps ahead. And so with that learning and how it created us as better men, for me, I'm just like, no, we need to do all wahine intake to not only prove to ourselves that we are worthy of carrying such a taonga for these people for these wahine who will come through, but also that it sends messages to everyone else that this is part of what we should be doing.
It's pretty powerful helping others, isn't it?
Amazing. Yeah. We talked when we first met earlier on. I was very fortunate enough in 2005 to go searching for myself and my purpose. And I don't know if you remember, I have a purpose, and that was, which I discovered in 2005, and I had to go through a massive process of vulnerability, etc., to find out that my purpose from then, which I still continue to incorporate in my why and what I do is to empower others, and empowering others and seeing their success, I get massive gratification from that. So we shared that. Can you remember when we shared that?
Mm-hmm.
You know that moment in 2005?
Yep.
Did someone help you?
100%. One of my best friends, Chris, who I was previously an opera singer, he came, I was singing La Boheme, Rodolfo, 2005, Wanganui Opera House, final night. He came backstage and he said, I don't know who you are. This is not you.
Wow.
And I was, for me, at the height of my career, was 29, I think, at the time. Height, as in I was living what was my dream at the time. And yeah, he just came up to me. He'd flown in from Brunei to watch my final night and said, there's something wrong with you. We need to fix you. And then I went 6 months to Malaysia.
Wow.
Where I did a thing called Asia Works, where they literally pull you apart and then you put yourself back together in the way that you want to. And I am a vessel of that person in 2005.
It's pretty amazing, actually, those moments, because it's people that help you to reflect on who the real you is.
Yep.
But then there's also this element that I've heard, which is people believing not in who you are, but what your potential is. Like someone like Sam Blackman. Like
Shout
I
out
think,
Sam.
like you know, I think he's actually pretty freaking busy at the moment. This was your mentor through Digital Doers, right? Who not only saw in you your potential, but would then tell others. You know, he's the one that said, OMG, you have to meet Kenneth because he's extraordinary. And it's, you know...
It's funny you say that because my conversations with him was...
It didn't feel like that?
No, well, I posed to him some very pessimistic views of the future because I was at a point where to do what it takes to be successful in a corporate scene, you had to be a version of yourself that I wasn't prepared to be.
Yeah.
You know, because it's the ego type stuff that, you know, like you fluff your feathers and you tell the world how amazing you are when sometimes that's not always the picture. And so my conversation with Sam was just around like, I don't know if there's good enough leaders in the world where I want to work for.
Yeah.
And so with that, I guess it challenged him because he's obviously a really successful business leader, and here's someone saying to him, like, there aren't any good business leaders worth working for, because at the end, you know, my experiences have been and observed that sometimes people get hurt and stuff. And so, yeah, so long story short, he was just like kind of nursing me back to say there is good if you look for it. And then as we started to do that journey together,
Wow.
he started to ask me questions about what would be my reason for being. And we did that Ikigai module, and I did it, and I came back to him, and then everything after, he was just like, I know what I need to do. And
Wow.
yeah.
Now, interesting question for both of you. When you look at the participants in the cohorts, and when you first meet them and you look into if you have the permission to look into their souls of who they really are, what do you do with that? Because, you know, you have a job to get them through the cohorts, to train them up, to create the safe space. And they all have a different, is it wairoa? Is that what you know, like, you know,
Spirit.
they have a different spirit
Story.
and different story and a different journey. Like, how do you, Kenneth, like, because you can't one-to-one each person, but how do you give them that feeling that they know that you see them?
To be honest, I think part of the blessing of being a job seeker is having lived experience of what it's like to be in that system.
Oh,
And so there are things that people who are job seeking, who come into this space, who recognise this space is built from me as a job seeker, as opposed to, you know, people who haven't had that lived experience and create this program that doesn't acknowledge that sometimes you're not even seen in that system. You're treated like a number.
Yep.
You know, you're forced into things that totally go against everything your wider is saying, but you're doing it for the obligations you have to face. And so part of my thing I'm still trying to figure out in terms of what I can give, even though I'm not there doing the one-to-ones, it's really just letting them know that what we have is relevant to their situation, like for any of them.
What do you think, Jack? Because you see people.
I see people, and when I look at them, the situation, I look at it with two sets of lenses. One, the business lens. I go, we have an objective to deliver here. And then when I pass that, because that's the default, that's the easy piece, that's clinical, I can get through that. Then what jars you, and MSD always say to us, don't overinvest emotionally.
Oh.
And I disagree with that. And
But that's okay, because that's okay. It's okay for them to say.
It's not okay. And I think that's the narrative that needs to be addressed at a national level. I think it needs multiple people at the table. It needs job seekers. It needs practitioners. It needs everything.
Because you're
Church
saying
leaders,
that people need to give a fuck.
Fuck yes. Absolutely. And this is what we do differently. We give a fuck. Right? We give a fuck because whether you've been a job seeker or not, these are people who, if I take our first cohort, our first 7 people that we have in our business today, they have changed our fucking business. Why? Because we gave a fuck. Why? Because we challenged our business to give a fuck.
This is going to be quite a good clip on social.
But it's true. It's true. We have a guy who came in, if we went through our normal sanitization process, would never come to the academy. I remember when Kenneth called me and said, Jack, we can't. He won't even get onto the roof. I'm like, I challenged Kenneth. I said, we have to try everything, Kenneth. This is a pilot. Well, if it's wrong, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Today, he is an energy specialist in our business. The business came to us and said, can we take him? He's fucking amazing. This guy never thought he would ever be where he is today, but we gave him a chance because we gave a fuck. And when MSD said, no, they said, listen, there needs to be a point where you remove yourself emotionally because it will impact your business. I challenged that and I said no, because that is the status quo, and we are where we are as a social welfare system in New Zealand because there's not enough change. Anyway, we've seen the impact when we apply pressure, we change the norm, we change the narrative with both the business and what we're doing, and magic can happen.
It's pretty powerful. Now,
essentially what Jack was saying was, I was trying to say, Jack, I have an assignment. And Jack goes, fuck the assignment. Just do it anyway.
do you think, so, like, near term, it's diversify revenue streams, in addition to MSD, but others. It's expand potentially regionally.
Yep.
It's look to take the business model into the islands.
Yep.
At what point does it go beyond solar to others?
We're starting
next year?
now. No, so we're starting now. So when we look at the hard skills that we are delivering, getting people to work at heights, that's
Still important.
industry.
Yep.
In the construction. So what we've done through the mahi that we're doing is we're saying we can deliver your training for any sector. So we've started that conversation, and
That's cool.
we're working on that.
Do you feel a sense of obligation to fulfill the potential that comes from this movement and this thing that you're doing?
For me, absolutely.
And are you ready to lead, Kenneth? Because, it's one thing to create the 4 cohorts. It's another thing, because I think you think of yourself as a vision carrier, but actually you're a vision caster, right?
It's interesting. We were literally just having this conversation before we did this, and
Talk about that process, because it's really, we are still discovering our, our...
What's that? What's a Māori word for how you merge together, work together?
weave.
Yeah, so
Because it's not hierarchical, right?
Definitely not.
It's a partnership.
It's 100%. And I think that's a key thing which we should talk about. But
Are we going to do that next hour?
what was the question again?
I can't even remember.
Oh yeah, the conversation about Vision Caster. We're still working out how we work. We were working with a storyteller on Monday, and one of the biggest challenges we have, or I definitely have, is when we're talking to potential funders, potential employers, etc., is to come up with that elevator pitch, that narrative that speaks to what we're doing, that has a business impact and social impact, and having that balance. And then because we're in solar, having to explain the why the solar industry is at tipping point and we're not resourced properly. So you've got to somehow bring all of that into a succinct narrative, and we're working through that.
So I've obviously seen thousands of businesses pitch and ask for pitch over the 20 years. And it's very interesting. It's those vision casters that can clearly articulate the present need that exists now and what they're doing to build on that. They're the ones that, there are many good businesses out there where the founders and the owners just can't articulate that in a way that makes people go, yes. And maybe also the second thing is, what most people don't realise when people are pitching their businesses, how many no's they get. Do you know what is the percentage success of companies looking to raise capital in New Zealand? What do you think it is?
No idea.
2.5%.
Wow.
2.5% of the people that are seeking money get it. And even more shockingly, 1 in 100 of those, 2.5%, smashes it out of the park. But that's in the fueled money space. My preference is when people come to me and say they want to raise capital, which I know you guys aren't, but I say, get a customer, get a partner that pays you money, earn your reputation by people who pay you, not raising money, to get customers.
Yeah.
But are you going to raise money for the academy?
I like to think, when we go for gold, which will be somewhere in the next 6 to 9 months, absolutely. Yeah, because this for me, I've always said to Kenneth and to Lightforce, this is beyond us, right?
Yeah.
I see this being something that's owned by the people for the people, but we're creating something where there is a need, but then we need the expertise and people to just take it and elevate it to what it needs to be.
What constrains the academy fulfilling on its potential today?
You can speak first.
It's hard because, I'll get you down to that. I think my constraint has just been able to articulate the story in a way that I can own it, because I'm still trying to figure out what that is.
Yeah.
And so something that I've not shared with people before is, the journey from vision carrier to vision caster. For me, it's been a protective mechanism to stay as a vision carrier, because I was once a vision caster, and I had wounds from not so much that vision coming to life, but just wounds that when you step into that space and you create something that is good and it just doesn't go that way, I've veered back to just being a vision caster.
Yeah, I understand.
And so part of the conversation that we've had this morning, what you've just alluded to in terms of being a leader of the vision, that's the next step for me, to be able to come back into the light.
For me, it's resources. This is the team. We're sales, marketing, CEO, HR, recruitment, customer care, we're everything. And there's some positives in that. We're our own bosses. We keep each other accountable, so we have that agility, nimble. But because we're attached to a business, we can be noise or distraction. So having the feeling that we are, I don't say that we are a distraction to BAU, right?
And that, look, I can see the future, but we don't need to talk about the future.
No.
Because I can see what's going to happen, and I'm excited by that. And there'll be some friction and some challenge in that. But
can I also acknowledge, because this is really important, this man here
100%.
started all of this because...
I didn't really.
You did. You weren't the vision
Whatever.
caster, you were part of the vision carriers.
Yeah.
We were in a board meeting, and I think it was June, July last year, where we went, let's do the academy. Andy hooked us up with MSD. MSD challenged us to put a proposal together, and Andy, I'm going to credit you, just helped us to get to the start line. So thank you, because you're a material part of getting this off the ground. And I just wanted to acknowledge that publicly.
Well, thank you. And, it is interesting when you reflect back on the business need. As chair, I sat in that board meeting and I could see through the team's communication and strategies that we had a talent shortage. So I did care, but there was also a business need that said
100%.
there's an opportunity here. Now, I always ask everyone this question, all my guests. I want you to take yourself to the 16-year-old version of you at school, but today. What would be the advice you would give that kid today? So the equivalent of you today, you go into your school, there's a 16-year-old looking back at you. What are you saying?
You go first. I need time to think.
Where were you when you were 16?
I was at Sacred Heart College in Auckland. My thing would be listen to your parents. They might be...
Listen to your parents.
Listen to your parents. They might sound... So my parents are first generation Kiwis from Tonga. They came here, they had a dream. They sent us to great schools so that we could learn. But through that, at 16-year-old, I thought I was better than what I was.
Yeah.
So if I'd
It's
listened
hard
to
to
Dad,
do that, though.
Yeah, it's very hard. As a 47-year-old man now looking back there, and seeing my 16-year, listen to your parents.
Kenneth?
I think my advice would be that image of success you see, rethink that a little bit more, because that's changed for me as I've grown up. I was very much determined to be, I'm going to say this, a plastic, businessman, doing amazing things in the corporate sector, where I thought that my identity and where I come from wasn't actually going to progress me there. It's easier to just substitute that and bring something else in, which was a very Western looking model. And so going back to that 16-year-old and being like, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to sacrifice that much.
It's pretty powerful. Hey, can I just say, Kenneth, Jack, thank you. Thank you that we've finally done this. I think, one of the things that I reflect on is the joy that we have is when you work alongside people who create movements and do things that change people's lives. Not only do we get enriched by that ourselves, but also you see the impact it has on others. And, ultimately, what Manaaki is all about is not about one technology, it's about people being the best version of themselves. That requires people to believe, that requires people to work incredibly hard, but it requires other people to believe in you. And none of us have all the answers. The more that we do this, the more that we create spaces for people to be the best versions of themselves, the more our society is enriched. And that to me means any person in any situation can be believed in And, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. The rich people are often more lost than the poorer people. And I don't mean that in a good way. I just mean, I think this is what Manaaki is about. And we feel really honoured that we get the chance to go on those journeys because it's making a difference. And both of you are extraordinary. And I feel very blessed that I've met you both. And I'm challenged to see you smash it in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're done for another Real Talk. Hope you enjoy it. Subscribe to manaaki.io or look at our YouTube channel. And if you're a female who wants to learn about solar and sign up to the challenge in the academy, starts in November this year. Check it out at Lightforce Solar, lightforce.co.nz.
Yes.
Thanks very much, everyone. We're out for another day. See you soon.
Peace.
Aloha.